Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Fast Break. I am Casey Johnson. It is Summer League week. We actually just had some access after practice at the Advocate Center, which we will get into in a moment. But we're going to start this episode with the news of the day, or shall I say the lack of news of the day, and that is the ongoing saga that is Josh Giddey's restricted free agency. The panic meter is pretty high, at least from the fan reaction I get crossing my sphere on Twitter and email and social media, et cetera. I'm here to tell you that this is just the reality of restricted free agency. The teams have the power, and the Bulls, from my seat, are playing this smart. We've all documented all along that the Brooklyn Nets were the only team with significant salary cap space to sign Josh Giddey to a massive offer sheet. That space dried up with their trade acquisition of Michael Porter Jr. from the Denver Nuggets. So Josh Giddey has nowhere to go unless there is a sign-and trade. And I can tell you, as of today, I've not heard of any sign-and trade machinations involving Josh Giddey. That's not to say that one could materialize down the road, but I can also emphasize, as I've said ad nauseum, both the Bulls and Giddey want to get a deal done. The Bulls, knowing that the market is scarce and the restricted free agency market has very little movement, not only for Josh Giddey, but for other big names like Jonathan Kuminga, are playing the slow game here. I don't have particular numbers other than to say that Josh Giddey's $30 million a year price tag that's been well documented in media and out there since last fall when the rookie contract extension was discussed, has not ever crossed my radar. I've never heard the Bulls mention that number, so I would not expect Josh Giddey to sign a $30 million deal. Now, what you're asking is worst case scenario. Again, the Bulls have all the power here, so if Josh Giddey and his representative and the Bulls cannot hit on a long-term deal, there is a world in which Josh Giddey could sign his one-year qualifying offer, which, yes, has been tendered by the Bulls to give them matching rights on his restricted free agency. That qualifying offer is $11.1 million a year, and it would allow Josh Giddey to become an unrestricted free agent in 2026. Now, this would not be ideal for the Bulls because they obviously want Josh Giddey in their long-term plan. So they are negotiating in good faith, but obviously keeping the number down because there's nowhere for Josh Giddey currently to go in the restricted free agent market. So look, when this story breaks, and at some point it will this summer, we will obviously have all the details and more of the ramifications of it. But just like Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors, Josh Giddey and the Bulls are currently at a stalemate. I've heard that it's not acrimonious. I've heard that it's positive. And I'm emphasizing once again that I do believe Josh Giddey will be in a Bulls uniform next year. At what number and how many years, TBD, but we will be all over it. All right, on to happier topics. Bulls Summer League. Yes, we got our first chance, other than draft night, to talk to the first-round pick from France, Noa Essengue. He is very poised, very mature. Those would be my first impressions of him, especially for a guy who will not turn 19 until December, and as mentioned ad nauseum, is the second youngest person in the draft behind Cooper Flagg. And we also got a chance to talk to 𝗵𝗇 Buzelis and Billy Donovan III, who is coaching the Bulls Summer League team, the Bulls Windy City Bulls G League coach. Let me tell you some first impressions from those guys, because their words are far more impactful than mine. Billy Donovan III, when asked for some things that stood out about Noa Essengue, said maturity. He said he's been asking a lot of questions about the defensive end, which really stood out to him, just like 𝗵𝗇 did last year, at this time. He talked about his running ability fitting into the Bulls' style of play, which, is well documented. They underwent such an offensive transformation last season, and Noa Essengue's ability to run the floor and get out in transition will fit right into that. Again, it's early, it's Summer League, but those are some first impressions from Billy Donovan III. As for 𝗵𝗇 Buzelis, this was very telling to me. He said, just like Billy Donovan III talked about maturity, 𝗵𝗇 Buzelis, when asked for first impressions, said Noa is mentally strong. And how does he know this? He said Noa is trying to go at 𝗵𝗇 in practice every day in scrimmaging. This is a good sign if you're a Bulls fan, because this is a young, hungry kid, similar to 𝗵𝗇 Buzelis. last year. Another cool thing that Matas Buzelis said about Noa Essengue, he said that what I do is I look for love of the game in a player, because if you have love for the game, then you're going to hit your potential, whatever that is. And he said, this guy has love for the game. How does Matas Buzelis know that? He said Noa Essengue actually beat him to the practice facility on the first day of practice, summer league practice at Advocate Center. And Matas Buzelis prides himself on that. He said it'll never happen again. So this is a guy who's in the gym early, staying late. Obviously, a lot is being thrown at him. As for Noa, I asked him if this experience has been overwhelming. There's a lot being thrown at him. He's living in America for the first time. He's learning a new city. He just learned English 2 years ago, and he said the intensity and pace of even summer league practices is probably a step higher than what he was experiencing overseas playing professionally in Germany. So this is going to be an adjustment period for him, but he seemed very poised and mature in talking about that, and he says he's looking mostly to impact the game at the defensive end. That's a great base from which to start. And it ties into the second point I want to make, and that's the package deal about Matas Buzelis and Noa Essengue. We've talked many times about how this could be the Bulls' front court of the future, and you cannot overlook the fact that Matas Buzelis was just in this position a year ago as a teenager, and now Noa Essengue is in it as a teenager as well. So Matas is obviously taking Noa under his wing as much as possible. And look, the fact that both these players have positional size, have athleticism, have defensive awareness, that's really something that stands out to me, because if you find young players, oftentimes they're mostly focused on the offensive end. Both of these players, to me, are focused on being impactful two-way players, and that's a nice base from which to start. In fact, Matas, his direct quote was, defensively, we're going to be a problem. And you're talking to a guy who led the Bulls in blocks last year as a rookie, in Matas Buzelis. Another cool thing about Matas is we know that he's probably going to be limited to 1, maybe 2 games out in Summer League in Vegas. And Matas reiterated today that he wants to play all the games because he loves basketball so much, but obviously is going to listen to what the front office says. As far as Noa Essengue's perspective about his pairing with Matas Buzelis, he said, we have the same goal, and that's to win and be the best players we can be. So when you have that shared mindset, again, I cannot overstate how cool it is that both these guys are similar in age, similar in experiences. Matas can kind of take Noa under his wing, show him some ropes, and when you project them out to be the front court of the future, the fact that they are both so defensively minded, I think is really, really unique and potentially impactful. All right, lastly, we got to close with a little fun anecdote from Noa Essengue's media session with us, because he casually was talking about experiencing the city of Chicago and the global brand that is the Bulls. His mom is over here with him from France. They've obviously put out on the Bulls social media account some of the touring of the city. They've been out on Lake Michigan. They've been to Millennium Park to see the Bean, et cetera, et cetera. But he casually referenced the GOAT. And I asked him, you know, is that Michael Jordan or somebody else? Because a lot of 18-year-olds didn't grow up with Michael Jordan. They grew up with either Kobe Bryant or, even more pertinently, LeBron James as their GOAT. And I said, are you just saying the GOAT because you're in Chicago in a Bulls uniform now? And he said, no. I actually think when you look at impact in the game and the way that he changed the game, Michael Jordan is probably the GOAT. He did admit that growing up with LeBron, that you can make an argument for him being the GOAT. So he was a little politically correct, but the point is he understands Michael Jordan's impact not only on this city and this franchise, but also the game of basketball. And I think the fact that an 18-and-a-half-year-old from a foreign country who is learning the language recently has that perspective is something telling and interesting and fun to close this episode of the Fast Break with. So we certainly appreciate you checking us out. I will be heading out to Vegas to catch the first couple games of Summer League, so we'll definitely have some more content from you there on all of our social media and YouTube channels. And we'll have another episode of the Fast Break when I get back from Vegas. Thanks for checking this one out. We'll catch you next time.